How you guys doing? Um, I was watching a podcast. They were talking about Russell Wilson versus Future, and one of the guys on the podcast said that if he had a son, he'd want his son to be more like Future versus Russell Wilson. He even stated that he would want his daughter to date someone like Future because a woman has to go through a Future in order to get a Russell Wilson. I guess I understand that in a sense because women have to go through the bad boy phase in order to get to the good guy phase. But I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this. If I had a son, I would want my son to be more like Russell Wilson because I was raised suburban. I wasn't raised in the trenches, and I'd want my son to be more like Russell. But here's where I'm going with this. I'd also want my son to stand his ground and not be a pushover for anyone. I'd also want that for my son. Just because you're a suburban brother and just because you're not a street type of dude, don't let nobody run over you. That is the kind of man that I would groom my son into becoming. Don't be no pushover and don't be no doormat for nobody. Don't allow nobody to take advantage of you. See, a lot of people associate a brother like Russell Wilson, I guess, as being weak or whatever. A lot of brothers in general that are more quote unquote suburban. A lot of these types of brothers get labeled as weak, but I say this: don't get it twisted. Just because a brother is from the suburbs, don't think that he won't bust your head. Don't think that he won't put you in line if need be. That's why I'd say if I had a son, I would tell my son don't be no pushover for nobody. Don't let nobody just run over you as a man. You stand your ground. You have some nuts about yourself, and I totally agree with that. Um, I wouldn't want my son to be a man like Future. That's just not the kind of man that I would want my son to be. Um, on this podcast that I was watching, the dude who said that he wanted his son to be more like Future, this brother was kind of hood. You could see it all over him. Um, you know, uh, a lot of guys, I believe, that come from the trenches. That's what they relate to. You tend to go with what you can relate to more so than anything. Um, Now, for my daughter, I wouldn't want my daughter to be with a Future type of guy. Even though I know women go for the bad boy, they go for the dude that they're attracted to. You know, because most guys that are attractive to women have negative qualities. And I believe they have negative qualities because they can get away with those negative qualities because of their appearance. Um, if I had a daughter, I'd want her to be with someone like Russell Wilson. I wouldn't want my daughter to be with a man like a Future, because I'm more so on the suburban side. And this is the side of things that I can relate to. Um, that, like I stated, people tend to gravitate to things that they can relate to. I can't speak on the hood. I can't speak on growing up in the trenches around the goons with the hammers. I can't speak on that because that wasn't my life, and that's not what I come from. But I can speak on suburban life, and if I had to pick and choose a man for my daughter, I'd want her to be with a Russell Wilson type of man. A brother that's more suburban. You know where I'm going with this. But this is what I'm saying. This is the problem with the culture here. Like I always stated, as a black man, being a thug is what you're supposed to be. And as a black man, if you deviate from the norm, you're seen as a sellout, you're seen as soft, you're seen as a square, as a nerd, all of these things. And this is the problem with the culture here. I couldn't believe when I saw this podcast. The dude, most the guys was up there saying they want their son to be more like a Future type of dude. And this is the problem with the culture. That's pretty much saying like, as a black man, you're supposed to be a thug. You're supposed to be a gangster. This is the problem with the culture. Right here. This mentality. You know? It's sad when you have a culture that feels being decent, if a black man is decent, if he's suburban, if he's not a hood ninja, then he's lame, he's corny, he doesn't have any swag, he's a nerd. That narrative got to change. But you know what, though? I can talk about situations like this all day long. That narrative is not going to change because that's the standard. A thug is what you're supposed to be as a black man, unfortunately. You have other races of women, when they decide to get with a brother, they not trying to get with a suburban brother. They not trying to get with a Will Smith. They not trying to get with a Chiwetel, a Jofa. They not trying to get with a Denzel or a Barack Obama. They want that stereotypical hood gangster, bust your head Lil Jon type of dude. That's the type of guy that they want, unfortunately. And this, long as we hold this stereotype as the pinnacle of what a brother is supposed to be, long as we continue to glorify this mentality, the culture won't go anywhere. Because when other ethnic groups look at our culture, they think that all blacks are like this. They think that all black men are thugs and gangsters and D-boys. They think that's what all black men are, and that's not what all black men are. But this is where I'm going with this. This is the standard that the culture has set within the black community. This is the standard that our culture has set, that as a brother, you gotta be hood, you gotta be a gangster, you gotta be one of them goons that tote that hammer. This is the problem with the culture here. You know, this is the big problem with the culture. You know, but it's not gonna change. Long as rap music is around, being a gangster, being hood, being a savage, that's gonna forever be the standard. And it's just very sad and unfortunate, because I think Russell Wilson is a good dude. I feel that he's a stand-up dude. I feel like, you know, brothers like Russell Wilson, that should be the standard for what a brother is supposed to be. But unfortunately, that will never be the standard for what a brother is supposed to be. Russell Wilson, that image, a brother that's from the suburbs, that clean-cut conservative, wearing Canali suits, wearing Tiziana Terenzi, cologne, real clean cut, riding in a SLR McLaren with some Tom Ford Oxfords on. That clean cut image of a black man, that will never be the standard, unfortunately. I wish it was the standard. I know that was the standard back in the old days, but that's not the standard now. It's just not. I've had sisters that assumed that I was old school, you know, because of, I guess, my demeanor and my taste in things. Riding around in a SLR McLaren, with a fitted cap on, and maybe a royal blue Los Angeles Lakers jersey with some Seven for All Mankind jeans and some Thursday sneakers. That's clean right there. That should be the standard. That clean cut image. That should be the standard for what a black man should be, but it never will be, because this hip hop culture, this rap music, this gangster culture, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere, sadly. Rap music is the most popular genre of music, and it's not going nowhere. And there will never be another era of clean rap like it was back in the old days, unfortunately. But let me know what you guys think about this. If you had a son, or let's say you have a daughter, would you want your daughter to date a thuggish type of brother? Or would you want your brother to date a more suburban, clean cut type of brother? Or if you had a son, what type of brother would you want him to be? Would you want him to be more on the Future side or the Russell Wilson side? But at the end of the day, whether you're on the Future or Russell Wilson side, it all boiled down to how you're being raised. Future was raised in the trenches around them Goonies. Russell Wilson was raised in the suburbs. So really, at the end of the day, it boils down to how you're being raised. How you being raised and the people you grow up around shapes who you become. It has a big impact on the type of person that you grow into. So at the end of the day, if I grew up on the south side of Chicago, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. Probably wouldn't be alive. I'd be a gang member if I grew up on the south side of Chicago. So at the end of the day, it all boils down to upbringing. If I grew up in Bankhead, where T.I. and Young Dro is from, I'd be a goon. I'd be a savage. I'd be a rough, aggressive head buster type of dude. So at the end of the day, it's all about upbringing. But that's all I wanted to say on this topic. Felt this would be a good discussion. Let me know if there's anything else you would like me to discuss, any other topics, and we'll keep the content coming. We're on the road now. Thanks for all the support. You guys have a good evening. Like, comment, and subscribe.